after the wonderful look we got at that pro level 8v8 deathmatch, I was definitely left a little bit addicted to the top tier gameplay. So today we're going to be taking a look at a game that was played quite recently on one of my favorite maps of all time, a 5v5 top-notch competitive deathmatch between some of the best of the best of the best. Today, of course, it's going to be Failed Negotiations, a map that is traditionally played with 8 players, but instead is going to be filled up here by just 5 per team pro-level players, each one representing an individual skill level that definitely peaks out towards the upper echelons of what is possible in Beyond All Reason, and leading the blue team. Spawning as an Armada commander right here in what is traditionally the tech position, but will have to adapt to be a much more aggressive frontlining force. It's going to be none other than Pro X Factor Live. 53 open skill and hailing from Germany, going to be showing us what they've got on the front line. Now, this isn't a detail. Well, actually, why don't we meet a red commander first? Before I jump into that, I was excited to get to that. We will in just a second. Pro Autopilot, going to be the red Armada commander, representing the red team here, and spawning, in an interesting way. Spawning as an Armada commander on the land and going into a vehicle bay when in traditionally the naval position. This is odd. This is definitely odd. This is a weird way of playing this because, as you can see, Griko Bratko, the purple commander here, is going to be going ahead and getting into those good old-fashioned Cortex boats basically immediately. So, what does this mean? Well, obviously it means that the red commander is going to be a lot slower to get into the water here. It means that the blue team overall has a water advantage because Happiness is also jumping into the water. But it means that the red team is going to have a lot more forces on the front line here, as indeed you can see the orange commander is going ahead and sending out some of those grunts early on to try and contest this loads of metal that's available for reclaim in the middle. 1.25 thousand metal total, the entire reclaim value of a commander in the midsection here available for the consumption of whoever manages to get a resbot out there first. And it looks like first to the party will be Angry Strawberry herself, getting one of these resbots out there onto the field and reclaiming as many of these rocks and ferns as possible to extract their precious resources. So, what was that special detail that I wanted to point out? Well, it's this. As you can see on the top of the screen right here, all of these commanders are playing with their sliders set very, very low. For both of these teams, they're using a strategy that normally we only see in really small team games, 1v1s, 2v2s, 3v3s. Oh, well, I guess not 1v1s, but 2v2s, 3v3s, sometimes 4v4s. We see this strategy, right, where you set your slider down really low so that essentially everybody has access to the same amount of resources. So you pull the resources that are needed in order to produce on the front lines, and of course any overflow is shared to the team equally. It's a really it's a high level way of playing because obviously one person can drain the economy disproportionately to anybody else. So that's one of those things you have to be really aware of. But it's a really cool strategy because it does mean that the team plays a little bit more cohesively rather than just sort of playing as a bunch of individual 1v1s, which is always neat to see. Grunt in the backline manages to sneak past the defenses and does find a constructor over here. That'll be the blue commander, X Factor Live, losing one of those constructors that was sent out in order to build these metal extractors. The, orange bot moving forward right here. The blue commander really doesn't have any units to defend, so unfortunately for X Factor Live, that orange bot right there from Bloodier will manage to penetrate the defenses right here, and X Factor is going to be hurt in a big way. Grunt on microed right here at the last moment will eventually go down, and the commander will blast it to pieces. But definitely a nice little bit of damage. And my goodness, the red team has already overwhelmed the front lines here. Hot Pink Grunts moving forward at this point and going ahead and blasting down the forces here of Strawberry. Just overwhelming numbers, more than enough to go ahead and get an overwhelming lead right here. The forces of the Orange Commander holding onto this island as well, and all that metal is going back to the teams. So cool to see. Now, obviously, the shared economy goes both ways. It is a double-edged sword, because if you rely on that economy too much, then suddenly, if your teammate isn't sharing a bunch of resources that you otherwise have been relying on, suddenly you can find yourself in a very strange situation where all of a sudden you've expected to have resources that you no longer have access to, and sometimes that can be a bit of a blunder. Gunboat here trying its very best. Gunboat's not very good against mass grunts, apparently, here. Gunboat's clocking in at 100 metal a second with the grunt, clocking in at about 36, so yeah, I guess 4 grunts ought to beat a gunboat as far as metal-to-metal cost does go. The red commander making a transition here after going for the constructor in order to build these metal extractors after using the commander to expand as well with some wind turbines. gets out into the water and does build a constructor boat as well as some other boats on the high seas in order to try and push the purple commander back, who does indeed suddenly start to get some units on the field. So we've got a submarine headed over in that direction, as well as, of course, these gunboats, which have been harassing the midsection here for quite some time. Strawberry, meanwhile, expanding forward, and I think I like to see this a lot. She's going to need those metal extractors in order to fight this gigantic army on the front here. Getting those mexes up and running in multiple different directions makes a lot of sense, and so I think this dual constructor expansion right here for the Strawberry, the angriest Strawberry, is going to be beneficial in the long run here. Relatively neck and neck as far as the metal and energy goes. The metal production and energy production slightly in favor here of the red team, but obviously as the blue team maintains the lead for metal production, that advantage will start to fade. Reclaim is wonderful, of course, and everything that you can reclaim, every enemy unit that you reclaim is just a benefit to your economy in the long run. Even all these units going down right here. It's nice that all these units are dead, right, for the Orange Commander, but reclaiming that gets you about 70% of the value back, maybe 60 to 70% of the value back. Means that sometimes, even if you manage to kill the enemy's entire army, if you lose yours too, and all those units are on their side of the map, you can actually end up giving up a lot more than you really barter for. Happiness. Building a couple more of those tanks, pardon me, not tanks, boats. Missile cruisers, sending out on the field right here, trying to find some opportunity. We do have a submarine moving forward as well. Submarine just barely getting towards the front lines right now for the, for the purple commander. We also have a submarine, one of the eels here, the light submarines for the Armada faction. 440 metal versus the 580 for the Cortex submarine. But the Cortex submarine packs quite a wallop and also has quite a lot of HP. Oh, little submarine battle. Oh, I love a good submarine battle. Duking it out submarine style right here. Yeah, the Orca manages to get behind in the dogfight and ends up taking the win right there in the submarine battle. What a ridiculous fight. I always love watching submarines go at it. Here we go. Big contingents of grunts does make it past the Hot Pink Commander's defenses and will overwhelm the base right here. Angry Strawberry going for the kill. Luis B288 now losing large portions of the base right here as these resurrected and patchwork grunts have managed to make it past the defenses and into the main lines. Popping the laboratory and shutting down the wind turbines as well means suddenly the Pink Commander is left with basically nothing for production in the backline. Couple of res bots mismicro right here from Strawberry, but a relatively minor mistake on an extremely successful offensive so far. Lightning Tank now out to deal with the grunts. It's going to be fabulous, of course. Lightning Tank's basically the natural predator of the grunt. No LLTs or anything to defend over here. Might be a little bit of an oversight from the red commander, as now 4 grunts will tear apart basically half of the entire red economy. Beautifully done. I do love watching these pros play. Every time that they play, it seems like they manage to find new and impressive ways to micro those units and getting insane value out of them. The blue commander, by the way, X Factor, using that commander to actually expand forward and grab these metal extractors. 4.8 per second is insane. That's a gigantic boost to the economy, just those 2 metal extractors alone, and indeed, you can see with this T2 laboratory already up and running, those mexes coming up and online is awesome. We also have transports. Oh, how cheeky. Yeah, transport's lifting up little build turrets here in order to actually assist the constructor in building these T2 metal extractors all over the place. What a fun way of expanding right there. Rather than going for build power attached to the constructors themselves, a couple of gosh, what are they called? A couple of those butlers. That's what they're called. Jeez. As an Armada commander, you'd think I would have had that memorized. Rather than going for some butlers, just moving the build power around. Huh. Yeah, I mean, what an interesting way of expanding. Obviously, you can reclaim these constructors, too. It's 430 metal apiece, which is worth putting back into your economy later in the game after you've built all these. But yeah, transporting some build power around makes a lot of sense. And obviously, it's not like these construction turrets are locked in place either now that the transports are out. As the transports, or as the construction turrets are done building these metal extractors, they can be picked up and replaced and moved on elsewhere across the map. Very high investment in T2 constructors right here for the blue commander. I wonder what we're going for. Yeah, just kind of multifaceted expansions all over the place. Yeah, just expanding everywhere. Gonna upgrade everybody else's mechs, as it looks like. Yeah, going for just a good old-fashioned expanse all over the place. We have more and more build power being built right here. I love the little build power build station where we queue up more construction turrets and then we deploy them around the map wherever they're needed the most. Very nicely done. I like this a lot right here. I think this is a cool way of expanding very quickly just by using these construction turrets, trying to put them within efficient range right here. The micro. Hold on. We're just going to switch to the player camera right here. X Factor doing about 1 million things per second, microing 100,000 units all at the same time. Oh, there we go. A little bit of build power actually handed over to the Seafoam Commander. My goodness. X Factor is all over the place. Just goes to show exactly how quick these commanders are moving and how dangerous they are if they're left unattended, right? This is a eco of somebody who's just been given all the time in the world to expand in micro and macro as much as possible, and you can see with all that APM going into building economy, going into scaling these production structures here, this is the kind of player that can reach peak very, very quickly. Going for fusion reactors here for the yellow commander, a little bit of a slower expansion, right? So the blue commander very greedy in this expanse, going for maximum greed. The yellow commander Randy going for a slightly more conservative build here, going into the fusion reactor, going into units, going into more production than the blue commander is, expanding a little bit slower. Not necessarily a bad thing, as remember, those T2 units on the front line can definitely make a difference. There are certainly lines on this map, though, where those T2 units would be best served, and I think one such line is definitely over here in the lane against Griko Bratko, who has done a phenomenal job of pushing forward right here, now has the commander on enemy soil, and will be marching forward with those boats, sailing forward with those boats, I suppose, in order to try and shut down Pro Autopilot, who has a fabulous navy, but definitely needs to get it into position to actually deal with all this. Obviously, multifaceted issue, right? We have a push from the right-hand side. We have Shuriken headed over here as well, so paralyzing that construction boat, probably not as important as the torpedo launcher, but there we go. Torpedo launcher is eventually paralyzed, and it means that these can push forward relatively quickly. And you know what? There's only one anti-air boat. Not even that hard to paralyze that. And if you do manage to, then you can actually take out this entire composition really, really easily. Interesting to see. I love Griko using these boats, using the long range of those destroyers to harass back the forces here from Luis B. Luis B obviously recovering from that run by earlier from Strawberry, trying desperately to get the units up and running necessary in order to rebuild the economy. And with wind speed plummeting right now, anybody who isn't invested in tidal generators or fusion reactors is going to start to lose a lot of energy potential. AGO economy set up and running over here on the left-hand side. Strawberry a little bit slow to the grab, I suppose, on that advanced geo, so the blue commander said, well, when in Rome, build geothermal plants like Romans. I don't know if they did. I actually suspect that they probably didn't build geothermal power plants. They did have, like, geothermal hot springs, though, huh? At least I know certain cultures did. That's, does a hot spring count as a geothermal power plant? It's sort of like a biopower plant, right? I don't know. A little bit of a philosophy debate right there for you. A little bit of a stall in the game here as well. Yeah, both teams kind of realizing that they should probably just go the distance, except for, of course, Strawberry, who appears to be continuing the aggression all around the map right here. Lovely stuff indeed. The hero grunt dismantling the economy, trying to pop that constructor as quickly as possible. Blasting off 2 or 3% per shot here. Oh, it's a close call. It's a very close call, and indeed, oh, the grunt will get the... Oh, the grunt will not. Oh, it will get the kill. Oh my goodness. A real nail biter right there. The grunt does manage to eventually get the kill. Sure, it can paralyze and get a little too slow on the draw. A hilarious little battle there between the grunt and the construction vehicle. Time for T2 tanks. Mauser firing away out of range from those coastal torpedo launchers, the Jellyfish, and of course the LLTs, neither of which going to be able to stand up to those long-ranged artillery trucks firing away into the distance here, and dismantling just about every single piece of static defense equipment, pardon me, that the blue team has set up on the shore here. Strawberry with a cloaked piece of equipment that's very dangerous indeed, so the commander is trying to hide here on the fronts, trying to make sure that there's not a way for these units to push forward, should they otherwise face the thermonuclear wrath of a commander's overridden fusion core. Lightning tanks looking for that angle to push forward here. The blue commander with a lot of constructors. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing a couple pit bulls spared here. With an economy of 198 metal per second or so, definitely feels like it makes sense to go ahead and go for some static defenses. You can afford to put some of those out on the field here. A couple of T1 spam labs up, and we also have the T3 lab up and running as well. Cool to see. Yep, the blue commander going for big plays. How is progress looking in the backline here for the yellow commander? Looks like we are scaling the economy up. We're using fusion reactors to step up this economy here, but you can see the aggressive expansion with those T2 metal extractors has paid off, as now the blue commander is ready to go straight to war off of a massive wind turbine economy. Pulling in nearly 7,000 energy per second here. 2 advanced geothermals, plenty of wind turbines as well. This is a gigantic investment into the energy economy for the Blue Commander, but obviously going unpunished, this definitely means that this base is now very easily going to start pumping out a whole bunch of those T3 units. Tsunami Bomber coming in. One of the better bombers in the game. Relatively cheap, relatively effective. Tsunami Bomber strafing across a whole bunch of these boats right here for the Red Commander. Nicely done scuffing those up. Obviously, bombers versus boats is not necessarily an ideal situation for those bombers. They're better used against oh my goodness, those fighters. The fighters block the bombs from the bombers. That's hilarious. That's an interesting way of air screening against the bombers. Not one I've ever seen before, but very cool to see. Oh, Tsunami's not dropping their payload right there. There was a little bit of build power that would have been worth chain reacting, but the Tsunamis didn't actually manage to take it out. For anybody's information, the Tsunami is a T1.5 Armada bomber. It's the seaplane bomber. It drops heavy impulse bombs, which is equivalent to what a T2 plane would drop. However, it just drops a few less of them, and I believe they do a little bit less damage than the normal heavy impulse bombs do. The spam of pawns moving forward here. Oh yeah, there's the static defenses. Perfect. The Pitbull turret's now coming up and running here. It looks like we're going to rebuild those metal extractors too. Obviously a wonderful idea. Investing in those metal extractors early on pays dividends later into the match. A massive army for the Tan Commander. Nicely done. Yeah, Pro Florio holding on here. Despite only having the air lab and just barely getting T2 metal extractors up and running, is actually managing to use those shuriken to immense value right here. So cool to see. Yeah, no depth charge clearing right now for the Tan Commander. Means that anything under the surface is safe, but all these boats that have been jumped on by the shuriken are now forfeit. This is cool. Goes to show just how powerful those shuriken can be, by the way. Turning an unwinnable situation into a very efficient one. Dare I even say a beneficial one. The Marauder Swarm, now marching out. Loads of Janices have been set up here as well to clear away mines, of course, but also to deal with any tick spam that might be used. Going to eat up the T3 laboratory. No doubt, no doubt in favor of going for a advanced fusion reactor. There it is. Advanced fusion reactor does come up and running. Well, rather, starts up, coming up and running. In just a few moments here, the advanced fusion reactor will come up, though. I believe it's 7,000-ish metal for that T3 laboratory. Yeah, close to 8,000, and about 9,000 for the advanced fusion reactor. So, obviously, with that, you get a gigantic boost to the economy. About 40 to 50 metal per second boost to the economy if you convert all the energy to metal. 2 to 3 advanced fusion reactors, and you can start paying for advanced fusion reactors relatively quickly. And here we go. Medium landmines. The scourge of Marauder everywhere. Oh no, we're walking into more and more of them. Yeah, the Marauder accidentally turning into the landmines rather than avoiding them here. Well, Blooder's commander is detected. Yep, the pawns are here for exclusively this reason. There they are. Flanking the commander and making very light work of it. Nicely done by the blue commander here. X-Factor is showing us that he's ready to get his hands dirty with those top-tier T3 units. Marauder quickly moving across the map here. Without any real T3 of their own, the blue team is left without options for dealing with this. Yeah, we have gunships in the air, and those are nice, of course, but the Wasps really need to be in massive numbers before they can deal with any kind of T3 run-by of this scale. Nice fighter pull here by the green commander, Shashkarin, as well, managing to keep those Marauder clear of fire from the gunships, and of course, with the commander going down as well, suddenly the Marauder have done more than enough damage over here. Oh, Spybot connection is nice, paralyzes a couple of those. Razorback in position here as well. One more Spybot. Oh, Spybot caught in the crossfire. Unfortunate. Yeah, Razorback trying its very best. The quad guards right now doing the very most. Technically twin guards, but when you build 2 twin guards, you basically built a quad guard. You know what? Those light laser towers have done a wonderful job of holding here. The Razorback obviously doing a massive amount of work as well, but my goodness, I'm impressed by the fact that those twin guards even managed to stop as much as they did. Mammoth's pushing forward right here. Strawberry's favorite unit overall, the Mammoth. slowly but surely marching forward. Apparently the Mammoth, I do believe, got a little bit of a line of sight buff? No, nerf, that's the word. Not as capable of seeing so far out into the distance as it once was. T2 boats coming out of the lab here for the Red Commander, autopilot. Obviously not worth very much if the tidal generators go down and there's no more energy production for the Red Commander. There are the gunboats pulling apart this backline economy. The Orange Commander now completely removed from the game. Well, save from a very minuscule area over to the side that is now being torn apart by some Maelstrom skirmisher boats firing away their little lightning cannon. Maelstrom, such an interesting unit. They function almost, I want to say, the same way that gunslingers do. In many of the areas where gunslingers prevail, I feel like Maelstroms and their counterpart, the Typhoon, I believe it's called, the flamethrower boat from the Cortex faction, they function in very similar ways, and that being that they're extremely effective against T2. Pardon me, they're extremely effective against T1. They lose effectiveness quickly against T2, which is kind of an interesting role to fill. We can check right here, hold on. Brimstone, that's what it's called, the Brimstone. Molly! Sorry, different game, wrong game. Razorback lying in ruin right here as the Mammoth continued pushing forward. Mammoth struggling with some targeting priority right here as they fail to target down these T1 units that I think they're meant to clear out. Pulsar here getting a good amount of value though, firing away multiple times here while the Mammoth are within range. Yeah, carving apart those Mammoth quite nicely actually. This is a problem though. Fiend's now moving well into the backline. Autopilot trying desperately to get into position to degun them. Manages to clip one of them, but the other one makes it away. And that is such a pain to deal with. Yeah, Autopilot now forced to micro between trying to degun Fiends here. Strawberry with some excellent micro, managing to pull those Fiends apart here and allow them to each get a spray of flame onto that commander. Obviously doing tons of damage here, as you can see, about a burst of maybe 6 or 7% damage per shot. And does manage to bring down the commander. Nicely done by Strawberry over on the right-hand side. Looks like Florio going for a little bit of a play. Moves the commander into position and decides to apparently laser down one of these metal extractors. Capturing it seems like a viable option to me, but Florio apparently not choosing to destroy it or capture it. An interesting time to select neither. Yeah. Pitbull's doing a great job. Rattlesnake also very annoying to fight into. T3 units usually able to shrug off the shots from Rattlesnakes quite nice. Rattlesnakes. T2 and T1 units, of course, gonna have to fear those, though. The economy continuing to grow exponentially for the Blue Commander. X-Factor spamming out units left, right, and center, continuing to scale the advanced fusion reactor economy, whereas the Yellow economy has been struggling to keep up ever so slightly here. You can see just way less build power means that these fusions come up a little slower, and of course that means that the metal that they produce comes in a little bit slower. The E conversion is a little bit lower as well here. It's the same economy, but just a couple steps behind the blue economy because that blue greed was so well managed. All those construction turrets going out onto the field, all those units being spared, all the constructors moving out to build those T2 mexes. It ended up working out here in the favor of the blue team. So now the red player is completely knocked out of the ocean as well. And when suddenly you don't control the seas on a map so important as this to control the seas on, you end up in a very tricky situation. And just like that, the very last of the defenses here for the Red Commander do go down. Pro Randy, resurrecting the Red Commander here. Better late than never. The Red Commander has come up and running and is now a Yellow Commander. Trying to get those comms up and running as much as possible. Vanguard's firing into the distance. It's cool to... Oh my goodness, that was a beautiful shot. Yeah, Vanguard's firing into the distance is always awesome to see. They got a buff to their range. You can see they actually... I believe they outrange Pulsars at this point. Yeah, with the Pulsar having a range of 1400 and the Vanguard with a range of 1450. Just barely, but they do outrange those Pulsars. It means that they can suddenly be a really, really dangerous force to go up against. Look at these wind turbine farms right here for the Blue Commander. Putting together just a gigantic amount of wind turbines all over the place. I think if we I mean, maybe we could effectively select all these here. Yeah. A whopping 768 wind turbines. I might have selected some other players' wind turbines as well, but easily hundreds of wind turbines up and running right here for the Blue Commander, producing thousands and thousands and thousands of energy. Awesome to see. There's that updated T2 aircraft plant, by the way. Looking very schmexy indeed. Pumping out T2 aircraft right now as quickly as possible, getting those fighters into the air to make a protective fighter wall and, of course, used for bombing as well. Anti-nukes set up all over the place. Looks like we have doubled up on anti-nukes, which is interesting. Apparently we've got one here and one... Maybe it's just... Oh, no, it's just the water. The effect of the water making it look like there's multiple, but in reality there's only one. Time for some siege weapons. We do have Thors rolling out on the field, which are, in some senses, a siege weapon. Ah, there we go. Yeah, missile cruiser firing away right here. The AGO taking a decent amount of damage. The cruiser, though, firing away into the cluster of metal extractor, or pardon me, cluster of advanced geothermal, or advanced fusion reactors and advanced geothermal, trying to fire on both as much as possible. Couple more of these boats, and I think we might have been in a better position right here. There we go. Boom goes the AGO due to an LRPC shot from downtown. Basilica's managing to punish that AGO for its explosivity, and it'll be the straw that breaks the red camel's back under the weight of the blue menace. Very nicely done from the blue team with overwhelming aggression across the map. A beautiful eco expansion, perfectly microed from our blue hero, and with wind turbines galore that are actually being reclaimed right now by a bunch of air cons. It'll be the blue team that manages to take victory in this very high level back and forth beyond all reason match. Thanks a ton for watching, and I sure hope you enjoyed. And I think the graph really tells the story, doesn't it? I'll see you in the very next game. Peace out, everybody.